Ready? Yep. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Sand Journals. I'm your host, Seti Matua. It's been a while since we've had an in-studio recording, but I'm very happy to have Chase back, and one of Chase's almost a lifelong friend.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah. So I'm going to let Josh introduce himself, and then Chase, if you can do it again.
Yep.
I think everybody remembers you from last time, but
everyone. No one
you're
forgets.
a memorable guy.
Yeah, no one forgets.
So Josh, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'll share my history a little bit, and then I'll highlight kind of like my relationship with Chase. So
Perfect.
Grew up in Lehigh, Northeast Lehigh, went to Lehigh Junior High. I don't think we knew each other super well in junior high, but we both did go to Lehigh Junior High, went to Lehigh High School, played baseball, and then I stopped around my junior year. Served my mission in the Philippines, the Kauaian mission, so Northeast Luzon, speaking Tagalog. And then when I got home, I taught at the MTC for 3 years, and that was awesome, amazing. And then I ended up doing some management, got my degrees in statistics, my undergrad, and my master's in computer science, and kind of been in the field, been in the field of artificial intelligence for the last couple of years. Married, have 2 kids, and 2 great kids, 5 and almost 3, a boy and a girl. And Chase and I, high school was super close, went to Hawaii with all of you. That was awesome. Junior year going into senior year. And then, just stayed close throughout, so.
It's great memories.
Yeah, it's great.
that trip was so fun.
Yeah, lots of fun. Probably be more fun after me and Mom left.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we had to take the bus everywhere.
That's what kind of made it crazy.
That was an adventure there.
Almost got jumped a few times. But.
Chase?
Yeah, Chase back again for the second time. I'm number 2 of the 5 boys. I don't think we mentioned that last time. Maybe we did.
Maybe. I don't know.
But I don't know. What else? I feel like I covered pretty much my whole introduction.
I don't think we ever mentioned what you do for a living.
Probably not. I don't even remember the date of the last time I came on because I've started a new job since then.
Yeah,
probably.
It's been at least a month.
Yeah. So I started at a company called SACE in the middle of July, beginning to middle of July. It's a Spanish banking app startup, and I am working as a data analyst.
Yeah.
I was just looking at how successful or unsuccessful they are. So,
and your undergrad is in statistics as well.
Yeah, as well.
Yeah.
So Josh and I have identical undergraduate studies.
Yep.
Wait, you minored in computer science, didn't you?
No, I didn't have a minor.
Oh.
The emphasis was data science.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think you were that as well.
Same, data science. So we went to the same school, and then Josh kept going. I couldn't handle it. So.
BYU.
BYU.
Yeah. Great. We're looking forward to having a conversation with you guys.
Cool.
But I wanted to talk a little bit first about you're both in kind of that data or artificial intelligence space, technology. And there's been a lot of chatter, of course, because it's the new frontier. And what do you think AI is going to do to us?
The new frontier or the final frontier?
Yeah, possibly.
Probably definitely.
Josh, do you have an opinion about it? I mean, you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this in general. I mean, it depends on like what you mean, like in the world, the people in the church, different scales to this, the economic ramifications of it, the almost like knowledge ramifications. But let's go where I think is most interesting. Elder Bednar gave a talk in on BYU Idaho. I don't know how many of you, if you were able to read it or watch it, called Things as They Really Are 2.0.
Yep.
How long ago was that?
It was fairly recent.
So he gave an original Things How They Are.
Things as They Really Are. He's taking that phrase from a Jacob, verse in Jacob that I can't recall. Probably could have 5 years ago when I was sharper there, but it's a Book of Mormon phrase. And then he Things as They Really Are 2.0, and he warns students, and when they make these addresses at BYU Idaho and BYU Provo, that we're really addressing
The world.
Yeah, the world.
Yeah.
And they know that. Sometimes you'll see ones that are pretty specific to the university, but it's so rare. Like they're general now. They know that. And he talked about, he warned about AI girlfriends, and that's not something that's, I don't think Chase and I, married kind of beyond that phase a little bit. Well, we think. I mean, there's people that. What I'm saying is, I'm sure
we're praying for both of you.
I'm sure
catch me at a
I'm sure there are
Coldplay
married
concert
men,
with
right,
AI
who are engaging in this. But I think like he was addressing that and warning against something. And when an apostle is using something so specific to such a general population like that, it's to kind of take pause. He also talked about people using it for like their sacrament meeting talks and thinking that it's funny. And he was like, listen, the generation of the talk is not, it's not about the outcome, it's about the process.
Yes.
And I think that will be a general trend through time, is like we might forget how to write well or do some basic tasks because we're opting to just use this all the time. An LLM generator for things.
Well, we see that.
And not.
Yeah, we see that in the past, and now it's becoming more prevalent. We're to the point where it's maybe not as noticeable, but I've noticed that people have a hard time having conversations like this.
Yeah.
Their conversations are usually through technology, and you could be face to face with someone. There's maybe not so much your generation, but maybe the generation behind you. They spend more of their time texting or speaking, whatever platforms they use. And that conversation is easier to them than it is to have. In fact, I had a conversation with a young lady, or maybe it was a young man, I can't remember. But that conversation I do remember was, how do you talk to people then? I mean, it was a girls' camp.
Yeah.
And they were asking, wait a minute, you guys actually met and had a conversation? And I thought it was so odd because this is what we're familiar with. Whereas this generation is just like, they would rather do the Tinder thing, or social media hookups, instead of having a conversation. So sorry, I stole a thought from you, but what do you think about that?
It's just the idea, right, of like us outsourcing our thinking, and in some ways that's a good thing, but it's still useful to do things. I mean, computers have been able to do arithmetic for so long, way better than humans, but we still have to learn arithmetic as humans. And even calculus, I remember Symbol Lab, like it didn't even use AI, but when we were taking like Calc 2, like it could solve these.
Wolfram Alpha?
Wolfram Alpha as well. It could solve complex integrals. And, we still had to learn how to do that by hand. So there's something that's incredibly useful. Like I almost like take it to the extreme. Imagine if we just didn't do anything and outsourced everything. Well, that's kind of scary and not. Yeah. Then we become disempowered. It becomes a disempowering.
Yeah, and dependent.
Yeah, but I think you can use it synergistically. I mean, it's accelerated my learning. It's able to teach you right, just perfect and niche down to your interests, right? I have very specific questions that I want asked, and it would take a long time for the internet to find it. But with a internet-backed LLM, it's just so much faster, and it can really propel, be that gospel or secular learning. I think it's really cool. So it doesn't have to. We don't have to outsource our thinking to it, but there's a danger in doing so. There was a Wall Street Journal on that, like how we're becoming dumber in the age of AI. So
I think the thing that scares me most, and maybe my thinking is off here, is I'm familiar with once you have a theory, you have to test the theory, but also who's validating that the answer is true. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts there? I mean, because when you have a theory, like in traditional technology, we test it till it breaks. And then that's our validation. Make sure that this works. X equals Y. But with AI, I think sometimes we're just trusting the process completely without any validation. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it kind of like, in a more like a broader sense, just technology in general.
Yeah.
It's naturally being used as a crutch. And so Josh was talking about LLMs and AI as it pertains to learning and Let's use the example of writing a talk. Like what Elder Bednar said about, it's not about the outcome, it's about the process.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what we're losing, is this ability to navigate and manage the testing. So Josh is probably the smartest person I know.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not.
Probably all of us.
Maybe it's less about the outcome and the vast knowledge that Josh has, and more about he's incredibly well versed in just the world of research and knowing where to go to find answers. And so that muscle he's worked not only through his postgraduate studies, but through just, hey, I'm interested in learning about health. I'm interested in learning about the history of the church. It's not so much as type it in the Google search anymore. It's about going through this process of looking at every single source and then coming up with your own understanding of what that is. Yeah. And so as we miss that huge gap in the middle of, this is my process of how to learn, instead of creating that model and that process, we kind of, I have this like knack for pushing that aside and just using an LLM to, hey, what's the answer to this question?
Right.
And so
that's the scary part.
Yeah,
I think.
I feel like everyone now has the ability to bypass this muscle building of learning and just typing in a question and getting an answer, and not really, like you said, we're just so trusting of the answer that comes out. These things are extremely powerful. They have the ability to search not only the sources that are traditionally searched in like a Google search, but like research papers and different data sources that it'll just scan, have an answer, and here you go. Yeah. And so we trust it because it's seemingly so sophisticated, and so it seems like there's no error.
Exactly. And your inputs have to be valid as well, right? Well, your inputs are, correct me if I'm going down the wrong path here. Your inputs have to be very specific in order to get the outcome. But if the outcome is based on, because you have different types, right? Predictive and all the other AI LLMs. But if the AI is just looking at, this is the squeakiest wheel and this is what I'm returning to you, that's what I think is the scary, in my mind, that's what I think is the scariest part is it going to return to me results that are based on ex-Mormons versus Mormons who are practicing?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Josh probably has a better answer for this. But I think they put in a ton of resources to kind of like limit the bias.
I mean, they work hard, and different LLM providers are going to have different, like Grok is going to be, it's going to give you different answers, right? But yeah, I can see your point. And I think people are trying to win, just like when the search engines came out, people were trying to win this SEO, the search engine optimization game. Yep. And today they're trying to win the LLM web search optimization. There's an acronym that I can't even, it's not coming to me, but that same deal. And they're trying to win that. They're trying to get the best information. Not the best, their information in front of the LLM to then consume that and come up with a thoughtful response to the user. One thing, I don't want to derail from that exact, but it's closely related, which is a lot of these LLMs, like ones that people are using, Claude and ChatGPT and even Grok, for the most part, have this agreeableness bias, where I'm sure a lot of you have used it and it's been like, oh, that's a great idea, and you're the best, or whatever. And I think that it can be a problem too, where it's agreeing with people, and so you get in this echo chamber where it's just, you're hearing yourself. It's flattering in a lot of ways, and so you have to consciously push the LLM to not do that. But that can be really challenging if we're outsourcing some of our decision making and we want feedback from people. And if I'm, and this goes for like if I'm talking about an issue that I'm having with my wife or something to an LLM. Not that I've ever done that, right? But let's say I were, right? And I was like, isn't this? It's sometimes like really flattering to me and slightly unfair to my wife, right? And it's like if I were to have that discussion. So I think that these can be good, but they're never going to get the tone just right or the bias just right. There's something about negotiating with real humans that just has to happen. And I think it can be one voice, but I've watched a TikTok of a guy who's like, people are sitting all day iterating and chatting with these,
Yes.
and they get in their own little world. It's a virtual reality, and it's really not good.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting and agreeing with you in a lot
Yeah.
of ways. So that's another thing that I worry about.
Exactly. That, which is a good segue into when you talk about the process the Elder Bednar talks about. I think the process for me is another way of saying when I write a talk and it shoots results back to me, how can I relay the spirit that I felt? I think that's the process that he's talking about. How can I relay the spirit that I felt to a group of individuals so that they can feel the spirit as well, rather than, man, that was an awesome talk. You hit all the points that I was thinking about, but I just didn't feel the spirit. What do you think about that?
Wait, are you admitting that you've used ChatGPT to write a talk?
No, this is my mind thinking this.
So you're
I haven't quite
referring-
gotten there yet.
The results you're referring to is the feeling or interpretation or impressions of the spirit as you're delivering whatever topic or talk that you've decided in.
Because I think now it's going to be, it may be fact-based, but it'll definitely be data-driven. But that data is never going to translate to the person. And maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll feel the spirit based on the information that's given. But the process is, how can that individual or those individuals feel the spirit rather than I'm spitting out facts?
Yeah. I think we'll just go off of the example of preparing a talk for church, because
that's an easy one.
It seems pertinent. But I feel like oftentimes we get in the way of whether that be the spirit or as simple as the principle being taught or suggested to be taught.
Yeah.
I oftentimes, when I'm asked to prepare a lesson or a talk, I worry way too much about, am I saying everything that needs to be said? Am I covering this topic comprehensively? Do the sentences and paragraphs, is the structure together? Is anyone going to understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I get wrapped up in that, then it just like really limits the opportunity for the spirit to touch me, and for me to learn what I need to learn from studying this topic. Because if I do that in a genuine way and there's some integrity behind what I've learned, and then turn around and try to share that with someone else, I don't have to worry too much about, am I saying the right thing so that these people can feel the spirit?
Right.
I can worry more about, this is the way that I've built my faith through learning more about this topic. It's not my responsibility to make sure the congregation is feeling the spirit or learning. I can just be true to the way the spirit has taught me.
Yeah.
And if that touches someone, then hopefully that's helpful for them.
Yeah. I like that, Jason. I guess in a way, what I'm really trying to say is the difference between, we know that the scriptures teach us that the glory of God is intelligence. And intelligence is what, from a spiritual perspective, we may even call that truth. But there is something about us replacing the intelligence that God is giving us with the artificial one that removes the authenticity of the spirit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I think one
You're
thing
thinking
as well,
a lot, Josh.
Yeah, I am.
We're kind of going all over the place.
I've thought a ton about these topics. It's more secularly, admittedly, than spiritual. But like, Kate, our mutual friend Kate, was like going to write a cover letter, and I was at one point applying to some schools, and it can draft it beautifully. By the way, Elder Bednar says in the talk that he used it in LLM to catch his mistakes and help him clarify. So it's not about
proofreading,
not using it. Yeah, and he was very clear about using it. It's just like having it generate the whole thing. Going back to the cover letter thing, the secular kind of viewpoint, I was like having it help me write this, and it can write beautifully and write words, but that doesn't make a good cover letter or a good admission statement of intent, or these things, you have to have personal experience. You have to inject
Content.
personal experience.
Yeah.
And so you could say, well, then just write out like what happened linearly, and then have the LLM like use it to craft a narrative. That's also true to a degree, but there's something about the words being generated from you. Right? We have finite word retrieval, and there's words that I use in my vocabulary that just makes me. And part of crafting that is making the cover letter mine. It's me telling my story and being authentic to what happened. And when I put words down one in front of the other, that I feel like they resemble my actual experience that I'm having or have had or wish to have.
Yes.
And using my limited vocabulary. I don't need to reach for all these synonyms and go out there. So yeah, it could probably come up with a perfect talk about the gospel of Christ, but there's no way currently that an LLM is going to know what experience you had with your child 4 years ago, and how that deepened your feeling with the gospel of Christ, or the gospel. So, I mean, at some point, it might have such an abundant context because we are wearing things all the time. You know, Johnny Ive and Sam Altman are working on that, or doing something, and it's always taking our pulse or whatever. It might have that, but right now it doesn't, and we don't know if that's ever going to happen. And it still can't. It still doesn't know the experience we're having in the moment.
Yeah, and it also thanks for sharing that, because it also will gather knowledge from your last inputs, correct? So you and Chase could potentially put in the same exact sentence, but it's going to go look back at your way of saying things and Chase's way of saying things, as well as experience, and what comes out may be completely different. Is that?
Yeah, so it uses there would be two levers there. One is like ChatGPT uses something called memory, where it just has a memory. It keeps kind of like snapshots. So if I say like I weigh 175 pounds right now and I'm talking about my weight loss journey, it'll put 175 pounds in, so it knows that. And you can turn that off though, so it doesn't have access to that. Mm-hmm. But there's also something called temperature when you're using an LLM, which, to keep it simple, is like how random you want it. So if you set it higher, then like if you put in anything like what's the weather today, it will output differently.
Yeah.
And if lower is going to be the same. So there's some randomness, some stochasticity to it. But yeah, it does know. It for sure knows everything that you've talked about prior to that in the same chat.
Sure.
Yeah, that's called sequential bias, right? Yep. But yes.
Yeah. Fascinating. So with that, I know this is a very high level knowledge of a very deep subject, but can we talk about standing in holy places? And using that same, we may be beating this to death, but using an example of someone who is struggling to find dates or interactions with people. When we talk about standing in holy place, first of all, let's ask this: where do you find yourself in that context? Where do you consider to be a holy place to you, for each of you, and how do you feel God, Heavenly Father, or the Savior in those places?
I think I touched a little bit on this the last time I came on, but my relationship with God has evolved over the years. Obviously, as you learn and grow, things change, and I've actually been thinking a lot about this. I taught the wrong lesson in Sunday school like 2 weeks ago, so here it is coming up again. But the immediate answer, like when you hear holy places, scripturally, it often refers to the temple, or I think I was clicking through the notes, like David was referring to Jerusalem when he was talking about the holy place.
David Butler.
Yeah. No. How that works for me, like Kaylee and I will always have a great experience when we go to the temple, and those occurrences are few and far between. But when we do go, it's a great experience, and I find quietness and peace. I lately have felt my holy places are in our home, in our living room, or in our daughter's bedroom as we're going down for the evening. Those are places where I find purpose, and that is what has become holy to me, is understanding who I am, specifically in relationship with the people that I love. And so any moment that I get to just look at Jane or look at Molly or be with Kaylee and just be in their space that is free of distractions. My daughters love watching a show, and that's definitely not a holy place for me, is when they're like, we're trying to manage the emotions and throw a show on. It's not very, it's unholy, but that sounds weird. That doesn't, but yeah, I have found a lot of peace and purpose and tranquility whenever I get to have a conversation with Jane, as her mind is in a phase right now where it's going 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like, I get ready for bed and I shut the lights off and I'm out. She's laying in bed and she's like, why are there apples on the tray? Like, she's thinking about every single thing. And that may sound like noise and distractions, but when I have that opportunity to sit there and reason through events that happened in the day or things she may have been exposed to and new things, it's like far and away my favorite thing, and it's my holy place.
Amazing.
So that's
Well, they sure bring a lot of heaven to our home.
Yeah.
What do you think, Josh? Holy places to you?
Yeah. The idea of holy places is interesting. Like, as I would like go to, I've been to therapy over the years for various things related to anxiety and OCD, and I've thought a lot about people bending their psychology to their situation, or their situation to their psychology. So let me give you an example of bending your psychology to the situation. Like, you're saying, I'm going to change the way I think about this, or going to dig in, and then I'm going to, because this situation can't be changed. Or the other way, right? You're going to change your environment around you, and you're not going to drink, and you're going to remove all the booze in the house or whatever. And that's, but I think it's not an either or. I think the answer is both. But the standing in holy places is really changing your environment and using that as the way to help you. And so I think, like, I would say that if I had to rank them, I would say it's more important to just be spiritual wherever you're at. And I think you could say you can make any place holy, but there is something about consciously trying to create a situation, right? Trying to create a moment, trying to create an experience with your family or with yourself and God. And I feel like recently a lot of mine has been just trying to get outside. That's been big for me. Like, we have like a little porch and I'm always sitting on that reading or what have you. But I feel like that's a big thing for me, is just like being outside. Even if the temperature is not perfect, there's just something about, it makes me feel a little more alive. Being outside and
having contact with nature.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And clean, if I can clean the space I'm in. That's really important. Church used to be more, admittedly, than it is now. I think that's because of, and I don't think that's any fault, it's just so much harder with kids.
Yeah.
It used to go, and it used to be a semi-relaxing experience. And it's not that, right? It's really, you're like, well, the second hour, well, no, because my daughter needs us and she cries if we leave her in nursery. So if my wife's teaching her something, I'm in nursery.
Yeah.
And I guess that can't be holy.
Yeah, is nursery holy?
Yeah.
So church, and someone could say, well, you can try, you can push it, you can do better, and it's like, to a degree. I mean, we bring snacks, we bring toys, and we try everything to change, to craft the situation, and it's still not going to be perfect. And
let me follow up on that thought as well, Josh. It doesn't change your belief system. It just changes how you're practicing your beliefs. Am I on the right track? Yeah,
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because, and I think most people, Chase, you probably experienced this. We experienced when this when the boys were all younger. It's really hard to concentrate on the Spirit when someone is relying upon you for other things in that, and at random moments where they just like, oh, got to change a diaper, or they're screaming because they just don't feel comfortable in that environment. It really removes and every experience is different, of course, but when you have people who are dependent on you for their comfort and peace, then your own comfort and peace is forfeit. Is that, am I off there? I mean, I haven't, I just beat them up, I just, just kidding. That's not true, guys. Maybe a little bit, but I don't know. Talk a little bit about that. How have you been able to find peace and the Spirit talking to you when it's really hard raising these little kids?
That's a tough one. I talked a little bit earlier when we were talking about like learning about a topic when you've been asked to give a talk.
Yeah.
And like figuring out how the Spirit is teaching me. And I haven't given a talk in 2 or 3 years maybe. And the last time I felt the Spirit like very strongly actually had nothing to do with reading the scriptures or during a prayer or at the church
Being
house,
in church,
in sacrament meeting. I'd say I believe very firmly that we're spiritual beings, and Heavenly Father has given these tools to us, referring to the scriptures or the ability to communicate with Him through prayer for our learning. But I have always felt like the moments, the events, the times that I'm feeling the Spirit and learning is with my interactions with other people.
Yeah.
Independent from sitting down with another person and reading the scriptures or going to church with my wife. It's more of, like I was just referring to in my holy place, like talking to Jane and understanding that there's a mind that is, that her gears are turning, but beyond that, she has a spirit that's trying to figure out the world that she's in. Yeah. And on the surface level, it's really putting logic together to make sense of the world. But I think on a deeper level, I can like say watching my kids grow is a very, very spiritual experience, and more than anything has testified of the reality of God than most anything else in my life. Yeah. And so when I'm trying to, I can't say trying to feel the Spirit, because unfortunately I don't make it a priority to wake up in the morning and read my scriptures and get down on my knees and say my prayers. And perhaps, I mean, the only time I've ever done that consistently was on my mission. And I come up with this reasoning in my mind that the reason I was feeling the Spirit so strongly then was because everything I did had to do with Christ. Yeah. That's just unrealistic right now. I have to go to work. I have to raise my kids and make sure they're healthy and have food on the table. I simply don't have the capacity to do all the things that I was doing on my mission. Like I have to live and provide for my family. Yeah.
Because that life was pretty regimented.
Very much so. Yeah. So it allowed me to be in those situations like Josh was referring to, molding your environment to psychology, something along those lines. What would you say?
Or you're bending
your circumstances and environment to help protect your psychology in a way. And so spiritually, what I was doing as a missionary was getting up every morning at the same time,
routine,
reading my scriptures, studying specifically for an investigator or maybe a new way that I might be able to help people learn about the scriptures on the street. I was saying prayers at every meal in public. I was going to every event that the church needed me to do, every single Sunday sacrament meeting. The first one's there, greeting people at the door. And that was bending my environment so that I could not only feel the Spirit, but be the conduit for the Spirit for other people, hopefully. And there's not that luxury right now. And unfortunately, I am not driven to make that the reality of my life. Right. So therefore, I have these situations with my daughters or my wife or my friends or my family where I can express my spirit and hopefully a little bit of my faith and hopefully be impacted by their spirit and their faith and their experiences. So that's a very long-winded way to say, like, my spirituality is contained kind of in that situation of connecting with other people and learning about their experiences. Hopefully it gets to a level of trust and vulnerability that I actually can connect with other people and just feel with them and learn from them. And it impacts me deeply. And I hope to one day, as I'm sitting in a chair like you are, that Jane can be sitting in a chair like I am and saying, things like I loved when my dad answered my questions at night, or I love going on the bike rides. Like that is where my spiritual growth is found in those moments.
So why do we go to church?
So I was going to ask that question to you. Well, I was going to say it in a roundabout, because your question to me was about kids, and I was like, I think if we were trying to optimize on like feeling the Spirit, as I'm going to say, we feel like the general sense of that term, like where we're feeling spiritual feelings, I could probably have a higher chance of feeling the Spirit if I were to just stay home and we were to turn on some TV shows or movies or something, or watch The Chosen, or maybe go in my room. But that doesn't. Wait,
did you just say The Chosen?
Yeah,
Watch The Chosen?
I love The Chosen.
Oh, okay.
Jen will come watch with you guys.
But like my point in that is like, and this is interesting. You were talking, and I spoke with my wife about this. I didn't feel the Spirit that strongly when I was on my mission. Okay, now, hear me out really quick. I feel like I was a great missionary.
We got to hear this.
I feel like I was a great missionary. I worked very hard. I tried to be very obedient and worked, but I never really felt the Spirit. I should clarify, when I was like teaching, and I remember feeling like I thought I would, because I'd heard these stories, but I just didn't for some reason. I was very sincere and.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting to feel the Spirit, like, at least every once in a while, when I was like testifying, and just like the feeling of power, and you hear about the fire, the missionaries that were in like the first missionaries, and they just and I remember not feeling that as regularly or really as ever as I thought. Like, very rarely did I feel it, and so sometimes I wonder if the aim isn't to feel the Spirit, because it seems like to me the Spirit is kind of like Elder Holland talked about how happiness is like a butterfly, where you have to be sitting still and then the butterfly will come and rest on your shoulder or something, right? And I think that kind of works with like the Spirit in a way. It's like the maybe the goal isn't to feel the Spirit, it's to be like still, or like generate a space for that. And if you're just like always trying to chase the Spirit, it might drive it away. I don't know. That's actually not true.
Maybe.
But like my point in this is like, I still think everyone would advise it. Still go to church with your kids. Don't stay home and just watch The Chosen, because there's something else. Even though I might not be getting the most spiritual feelings out of that. And there's something like the sacrament, which is not that spiritual when your child needs the cup or spills half the water and cries, and then wants to do weird stuff and put the cup in his mouth, and chew on the rubber, whatever, right? And it's like, okay, I'm not closing my eye. We go to church with a lot of old people, because we have a senior center next to us, and they're just so calm. Their eyes are closed. And I look around, I'm just like, the luxury of closing your eyes. What would it be like?
And being in the moment.
Yeah. So we're probably disrupting their peace, but... So yeah, what I'm saying to you is you can maybe do those things after like The Chosen stuff and such, but I still think there's something about a community at church that's, I think sometimes we feel like that's anti-spiritual, but it's very important to rub shoulders with people, hear from people, get different perspectives from people, interacting face to face. It's so important, it's spiritual. It's that, Zion would have that, right? Yeah. And I think there are other elements, I guess what I'm saying, than just simply feeling the Spirit at church, which doesn't happen very often right now.
Yeah. And thanks, Josh. I appreciate all those perspectives. We've talked about Elder Bednar quite a bit, but this is one of the counsels that we received, something that we were taught as bishops in a YSA area. And if I'm not saying this correctly, please let me know. But I taught my YSAs after this experience with Elder Bednar, and he actually shared it with missionaries in some of the areas that he visited. That excuse me, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to participate in renewing their covenants on a regular basis. So at the end of, you go through, I've received all of my covenants, my endowment of power, been baptized, et cetera, et cetera. The question then becomes, well, what's next? What covenant do I make after the new and everlasting covenant? And Elder Bednar taught us that every Sunday you get to participate in a covenant all over again, which is participating or partaking of the sacrament, which is the primary reason why we go to sacrament meeting, is to renew those covenants. And it's not just renewing those covenants, but making a new covenant to God for the week ahead, or for some other thing that you're going through. So, am I stating that correctly?
For the new person you have become.
Yes, for the new person that you become on a regular basis. So, I think in my mind, if we go to sacrament meeting on every Sunday and partake of the sacrament, that is the primary purpose of participating in our church services. Beyond that, it's exactly what you said. We have a community that we can rely on for whatever temporal needs that we have, as well as sometimes we have an opportunity to serve others, and that satisfies a lot of our spiritual needs in those moments. Because I get the sense that sometimes we can fall into these ruts of, well, why can't you bless me with this? Or, man, I'm not feeling good today. Why is this happening to me, God? But when we look internally for the answers to those things, there's a bit where we need to do some soul searching. But in my mind, if we look outside of ourselves, then the blessings, the service element, everything to me falls into place, because we're doing exactly what the Savior would have done if he was here, out ministering to people. So I know that makes it hard for you guys, young fathers, to really spend a lot of time ministering and serving others. But I think that's a lot of the reason why we participate on Sundays. The learning element, you're right, we could probably learn on our own. But I love going there because I'm allowed the opportunity to hear different perspectives in a setting that is conducive to learning.
So tell me more about two things. Number one, did you ever have an experience or a phase of your life where you thought to yourself, I'm not feeling the Spirit here week by week? Mm-hmm. In fact, I feel the Spirit more on the golf course. Why do I do this? And then number two, how did you, maybe specifically as like you were raising us? I know you had like a lot of callings that kept you busy.
Yep.
And perhaps a calling just distracts you from actually trying to dive into, am I feeling the Spirit, and trying to be introspective. But did you ever have those phases in your life as a young father or as a learning father? And then how did you?
Never. I never did. Actually, there were several times. There was a moment in time where we just felt like, I can't do this every Sunday. I'd rather be doing something else. Yeah. Number one, because the environment we were going into, to us, felt toxic, because it was not so much about the gospel and learning to grow closer to Christ. It was more about, hey, we're having this social event. And it was more about the social aspect of being there, rather than where do I stand with Christ? And I think that was the second part of it, was that I just didn't feel him anymore, because I was relying on those Sundays to lift me up, but it was making me more depressed because I just wasn't learning or feeling like I was being effective in my calling or with people. So that's kind of where I kind of veered away. But then I can't recall who the apostle, maybe it was Elder Anderson, or
it was probably Elder Bednar.
Elder Bednar, or President Nelson.
I don't know who that is.
Nelson.
But going, one of the apostles maybe years ago said that there are blessings in consistency, and even in those moments, perhaps more than in those moments where we don't feel like we need to be there, is probably when we need to be there. At least that was the case for me, because that consistency helped me in my mind to say, I know I don't like being there, but there's a reason why I need to be there. And that was enough for me to exercise a little bit of faith and wait for God to give me the answers to why I was feeling that way. And then the answer came to me that we just needed to, at the time we were going to a language ward, and we just needed to switch things up. You boys needed to get to know your friends in the neighborhood a little bit more. So we made the decision to go to our family ward. And that became probably the biggest blessing for me, because I ended up learning the gospel in a totally different way from people who didn't have a lot. But what they did have was a testimony of the gospel that I was able to learn and lean on for those moments when I didn't feel it. And over time, I was able to remember spiritual experiences from my youth, and then create new spiritual memories through the Spirit with people that I was now associated with. I don't know if that answered your question. But
It does. It provides a lot of just insight into, what you and Mom went through.
Yeah.
When you're raising us, because Kaylee and I are now at that phase of like trying to figure out. It's a puzzle piece, unfortunately, of like, where does this fit in our life?
Yeah. And it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah. And there's like deeper things that we will never be able to shake. Like we believe in God very firmly. But then you kind of like have to kind of dive into the details of what that means in our life, and figuring out where Sabbath day observance and going to sacrament meeting, where does that fit in our relationship with God and our spirituality, and all kind of like echo things that Josh says. It's a very similar experience for us.
Sure.
And like the mornings that we wake up, this is you guys already know that I do this, but it's the words taste bitter coming out of my mouth because it's with my parents. Anyone else is just fine, but the Sunday mornings where we wake up and we hop on the original Pancake House Yelp line, and it's like a 45-minute wait, and so we kind of slowly get out of bed, keep our pajamas on, and take the girls out to breakfast. And it's like, for some reason, it's the only time that they're good at a restaurant is on Sunday morning. And then we come home and we go for a walk or we ride the bikes. Like those are mornings that are like, wow, like we had an easy like a Sunday morning today.
Yeah.
And then the juxtaposition of like, okay, the mornings where whoever decided 9 a.m. church was a good move for families is crazy. We have to wake up, get there stressed out because we're late, and get in, and the girls want nothing to do with sitting still, and it's just difficult.
Yeah.
But like hearing about your experience and just the way that we've come to reconcile that difference is there's something to be said about consistency, and taking even if it's 2 seconds in the sacrament prayer to be like, just kind of take a breath. I think if we were to continue that consistency as we have had throughout our marriage, I think it'll go a long way for the way our daughters interact with our Heavenly Father and with us as their parents. So it's a hard balance, but that's kind of where we're at.
What do you think, Josh? It's great, Chase.
Yeah, no, I think what you guys were saying is good. Like, I said something earlier that I was like, maybe seeking the Spirit isn't the answer. And I'm like, oh no, that is. But sometimes it's hard, right? Like sometimes, like let's say you were really anxious. Like I can have bouts of anxiety, and it's so hard to feel the Spirit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just thinking along these lines of what you guys were saying, and I think there's so much wisdom in kind of like the set it and forget it a little bit, and like trusting the process.
Yeah.
We hear this a lot, and it's become a cliche, but there's so much truth to it. And I think it's because anything that seems like it's worthwhile and good in this life just takes a long time. I was thinking about that the other day. I think I texted you guys that. It was a month ago, but I was just like, building financial freedom, building a business.
Was it about buying a house?
It wasn't. I think I had.
I know someone, by the way.
Well, the craziest thing is I feel like I'm like semi-fit, and I was doing so much, cardio, and I was like asking ChatGPT, why is my heart rate so dang high when I run? Like as soon as I take my first step, I'm like in zone 3, and it's supposed to be running in zone 2. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And I feel fit. And it was like, trust the process, do a run walk, no shame in run walk. These people passing me.
As long as you're not on the Murdoch Canal, there's no shame.
No, yeah. I'm on the Murdoch Canal, and every 60-year-old is literally flying. It feels like they're flying by me. And I was like, come back to ChatGPT. What's going on? Yeah. And it's just agreeing with me. You're good, man. You're good, man. You're good. But so I try to like get countering opinions. But what I learned is sometimes it just takes a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
And developing a good friendship like Chase just takes a long time, right? You can't make old friends.
Yeah.
Right. It takes a long time to get and marriages are built, and the power of showing up with children. And I think it's just as true in the gospel. And so I think what happens is sometimes Elder Maxwell says, like, we always like open the oven to see if the cake's done, and it ends up not cooking. and sometimes I'm the one that does that. I try to over optimize everything. Is this working? Should I be going to church or whatever? And there's wisdom in set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And maybe even that's not good for your life. You don't want to set something for life and forget it for life. Revisit in a specified time until that time comes. Just keep moving. So you say, you know what? This church thing, it's really hard right now, but this is something that is a value of mine, and so I'm going to trust the process. Yeah. Continue through this challenging period.
Yeah. Are you saying the benefit will come as you look back, or maybe perhaps the benefit will come eventually in the moment? Or both?
Both. I guess what I'm saying is it's not intuitive. Like you can't tell when something's working because a lot of good things in life just take so long, and a lot of progress is not linear.
Yeah.
Even in something like running where you think so, it's like not. ChatGPT kept telling me that seemingly overnight my heart rate was going to drop, and it never did. I'm serious. And other things too don't happen linearly. You could have no friends for a while, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of friends. Yeah. And maybe.
Yeah, that one's.
But what I'm saying is, like, you could not be feeling the Spirit at all at church, and then you look back and or maybe you start feeling the Spirit, or maybe you never do.
Yeah.
And then you look back and I'm still so grateful that my kids had to go to primary, and they got to learn. They got to learn from different people and associate with different people, and they got to learn different perspectives about Jesus and stuff. And
and maybe that's where that connection is, where you felt the Spirit running in the mountains, but you didn't feel it running after your kids in church. But going to church reminded you of when you were in the mountains. You're like, okay, that's why I felt the Spirit, because I was in a place that allowed me to feel the Spirit in that moment. I may not feel it all the time at church, and I may not feel it all the time because I'm running and I'm hurting and etc. But you still have we all have the blessing to recall those moments. And I'd like to talk about another part from this week's studies, where, but if you still had a thought, please continue. But I wanted to
just on setting it and forgetting it, and in the sense of committing, like with your wife. You know what? This is like not really working right now, in the sense of I'm not really feeling the Spirit, but this is something we value. Let's not overthink this.
Yeah.
If we value it, we're going to set that in, and we're going to forget about it and just keep doing it. Right. Trusting the process, trusting that something good's going to come out.
Yeah.
that was kind of the rest of it. Yeah.
And that's another way of saying faith. Huh?
Yeah.
But what I was going yesterday in church, we were talking about. First of all, there wasn't a lesson prepared. Second, those of us adult leaders who had studied jumped in and said, "Okay."
Oh, this was with the youth?
Yeah, the youth are always on the hook to teach, but the people that were asked to do it either didn't show up or didn't prepare a lesson. So two of us jumped in and shared some of our thoughts from Come Follow Me, our studies. But it happened to talk about two things that I love the most. And that you guys know this growing up with me, I have stacks and stacks of journals.
No.
And the question I asked the boys was, would we have the scriptures if people didn't write down their spiritual experiences? The answer is no, obviously, because prophets, ancient prophets and modern day prophets have been prompted or have been directed by the Lord himself to write down certain things and the impressions that they had, the things that they felt. And then I asked them a follow-up question. Do you think that you can write things that will affect your family? And all of them just kind of sat there like, no, not really. And I think the way I asked the question was, do you think that you have holy experiences that can benefit other people? And none of them said yes. They all said, no, I don't think that's possible. They say, well, you're young, and start today. You got to start somewhere. So start today writing down things that you experienced in your life, good and bad, because we can learn from both. Have you guys, Chase, I know you've done this yourself, but have either of you had an opportunity to write down, whether it was on your mission, going through the temple, whatever, even being in the mountains or in other places, are you in the habit of writing down spiritual things for your posterity?
My wife jokes because when I'm like in the bouts of these like mental health crises that I get in sometimes, I write a lot. She's like, well, everyone's just going to think you were an anxious mess, and you actually weren't. You just wrote a lot during those times. And because, that's not true. I wasn't, but it gives you just a small window. So, yes, I do. I do write down experiences that I have. You said something too. You said, writing the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And to learn from. And I even think like, I've gotten family history for some reason, just felt it the other day, and I just got in and started doing it. And I started researching some of my grandpa's siblings and such. And some of them like left the faith early and some of them became antagonistic, and learning about their journey through homosexuality, living in the 70s and being a homosexual and a member of the church and how that was challenging. And just learning about his story, actually the Tribune covered him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when he passed a couple years ago. And my grandpa didn't really know him because he
just kind of left home.
This is your uncle?
No, they kind of had a rift. I don't
okay.
really actually know. This is my grandpa's brother.
Oh.
And suffice it to say, they didn't talk since he got home from his mission. He picked him up. My grandpa picked him up at the airport. At the MTC. He was coming home early from his mission, and something happened, and they never spoke again. Wow. So I never got to know this man. And I looked up his name on Google, and there was like a big Tribune article. and my point that I'm trying to make here, sorry it's so long, but it's not even learning from them in the sense of what can I leverage here. It's like learning the person is just inherently satisfying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that he has like this person. I wasn't sitting here thinking, I just want to learn. What can I learn from him? How can I avoid his mistakes? I wasn't really seeing that. I was just saying,
learn about
who
him.
is this person? Yeah. And what kind of life did he live as a member of the church? I mean, it's different now. Being a homosexual today and having those tendencies in today's church is so different from having those feelings in the 70s, or in the 60s rather. And his experience and what he felt, and he actually played, interestingly enough, he was a thespian, and he played Miss Dottie, which was a woman. No, I'm serious. He played a woman like we think of Miss Doubtfire, where you play.
Yes. Yeah.
He wasn't like transgender or anything. He played a woman who had a child who was gay. So Miss Dottie had a child who was gay.
And Miss Dottie is Miss Doubtfire?
No. I was just drawing that.
That's kind of an
parallel.
example.
But he played a woman.
He played a female role.
He played a female role, and he was playing his mother, Zelpha, who.
That's who he drew inspiration from.
Yeah, who was, and so the person he was playing, his son, her son was
He
gay,
himself. That was him.
but he played the mom.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, why did he do that? And what did he feel about that? And he won awards for it. And some of the things in the actual play were, and you would say, antagonistic or satirizing some things in the church, maybe disrespectfully. I don't know. Yeah. But I didn't really care about that when I was researching him. So I think there's something to learn from people, but sometimes it's just, who is this person? Yeah. And that is inherently satisfying and fun. And so that's what, sometimes when I'm like writing lately, I've been using Day One. It's an app and has daily prompts, and I've just been writing.
Yeah.
And just trying to get down new angles. And so, yeah, I do think it's important to highlight big experiences right after trips, right after things, but you don't want to just be the guy who just went on trips all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's you look at somebody's mission.
This happened today.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at somebody's mission, they look like they were on P-Day every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
or me. If you just looked at my journals, you would think that I was an anxious, and I'm just like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want, who am I? And so some things I will ask is like, what is a good day? What does a good regular day look like for you? And I just wrote about that.
Yeah.
Or what is an intention you want for this week? Just things like that. So I think it's just like we all have inherent value as children of God. And I think in some ways you have more value to your family than you do to others because you're just interested. And I think it's so cool to just get every angle and the quotidian and the more profound. And I think I think it's really cool.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it is. And I think that's where I was leading is making sure that, because we're reading about spiritual experiences by prophets of old, but we sometimes forget about the human element that person had to go through in order to experience the spiritual thing that he had to learn, right? And I think that's kind of where my approach is whether these guys read the stuff that I wrote, or in fact, I took one that was from August 2004 to August 2005 with me. And I thought, hey, it would be cool to read something to these guys so that they know who I was 20 years ago. And then as I was reading through it, I'm like, I was a real jerk. I don't know if I want to share this with these guys. And that to me is also helpful because you can look back and reflect on those things and experiences and see either how far you've come or whether or not you've grown at all. And I think after reading a few pages of that year, basically, I thought, man, I hope I'm a different person than the person who wrote this stuff 20 years ago.
But Seti, like, I mean, to push my point, what I was saying, maybe it's after you passed away, right, or something. But like, I think that Chase, and maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, would find like those things even they make a person, you know. So like, it's not like it's like, I don't know. I'm trying not to get like woo woo and stuff, but it's like even seeing like the
it humanizes it.
Yeah. Sometimes I just want that from my parents. Even I'm like, where did you struggle, or like when did you make big mistakes, right? And they're a little reticent because they feel like, oh well, maybe you would justify things because of like my mistakes or something. And I'm like, no, I'm mature and beyond that. I just want to know who you are.
Absolutely.
It's so fascinating to see all the facets of a person.
100%, Josh. And we had an experience last year where a lot of things in our family history were uncovered that no one had ever known. And it had the potential of really ripping lives apart. But I think and I don't want to throw people under the bus, but I think if people had been more courageous like your uncle to just say things or write them down so that other people can hear them from their perspective, it might have helped us out a lot. Rather than trying to piecemeal stuff together from different stories, different narratives, and saying, yeah, I don't know if that was really that person. And so that's, I think another value of what you're saying is I want to hear directly from this person why they did this or how they responded to this situation.
I think one of the things, so I was in high school and Kaylee and I dated. I thought we dated in high school. She was hanging out with me or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
She's like, we spent time.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Yep.
We dated.
It sounds like you're trying to reassure yourself.
I am. But it's so one day is a weekend. It was my senior year, the tail end of my senior year.
Yeah.
Like everyone's ramping up, trying to, apply to colleges, prepare for missions, things like that. And Kaylee and I had a conversation, and she just basically said, "Listen, I'm going to Utah State. I'm going to live my life. I'm doing these things.
I don't need you."
She didn't say that word for word, but essentially that's what I'm hearing.
That's where it was leading.
That's all I heard was,
yeah.
"Oh, hey, she's gone." And I remember coming home and just like, I don't think I was crying yet. Maybe I was, but I walk in the door and mom was like, at the cemetery.
Pieces of you are falling off as you're walking in the house.
The house by the cemetery, they had those glass doors.
Yeah.
So as you walk in, everyone can watch you as you're walking to the kitchen that's in the front room. But everyone was asleep except for mom was in the front room, and the lights are on. And I just walk, open the door, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And then I just lost it and explained to her what happened and that I was distraught. My life was over. Well, fast forward, it must have been a night or a few days. And mom says, "You got to get onto," what was your blog called? Le
Folama, the journey.
Yep, the journey.
Yep.
Get on, your dad has written something. And I click, and the most recent article is a letter to a son with a broken heart. and it's crazy thinking about that now. That's kind of etched in stone now that it's on the internet. But it's just like thinking about that now. I revisited that letter multiple times a day, and it was I was a little puppy. I had lost my girlfriend. I was sad, and that was a piece of your heart was put into words that I could revisit and understand myself through it, and understand your experience through it. Yeah. And fast forward, it all worked out. Kaylee and I worked out, but even though we've worked out, I have this just a piece of memory that's written in words that I can return back to and kind of feel a piece of who I was in high school.
Yeah.
The way my heart worked all through that, that letter to me. That was so I guess all to say that because, well, actually, Josh gave me a journal and some pens a Christmas ago, and along with an excerpt from Jordan Peterson, kind of a little bit of instruction for how you can an angle at journaling. That's not a daily diary. It's more of emptying your conscious and your soul piece by piece and asking yourself questions and having it be more of a learning a whole person.
Amazing.
And so I want to have my posterity to have those pieces the way that you've left, whether that's the daily diary or the way you thought about things, the way your mind worked, the way your heart worked. I want to be able to leave that and just have, not that I think I'm an interesting person, but the way that I've been able to learn about other people and myself through journals and other people is impactful and important. So I think journaling is very, very important.
Thanks for sharing that, Chase. I forgot completely about that.
Yeah, it's something I will never forget.
Maybe I should pull it up and run it through ChatGPT. Clean it up a little bit.
But Seti, imagine if you had written something and you just asked ChatGPT, "Hey, comfort my morning
Yeah.
shot. It's just not the same.
There's no authenticity.
Yeah, there isn't.
Yeah.
I had this thought once as I was thinking, why write in the age of AI? And I was thinking about this idea.
That's phenomenal.
He made a really cool point, which is we have 60,000 thoughts a day. An average person does. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It depends on the person. There's a huge range. It's 30 to 60. I'm like, wow, that's the dumb and the smart, I guess. But
I'm probably more in the 30 range.
yeah. But it's interesting. We have so many thoughts in a day, and then think about it as like a funnel, a filter. And then we have a certain number of words that we speak as we talk. Yeah. And the words that we speak are not time stamped and marked in time, unless you're podcasting, which very few people are. And then you have word, you can write. So we have thinking, we have speaking, and then we have writing. And the writing is the bottom of the filter here, right? Where you're thinking, but then you're distilling down your thoughts into sentences, laying sentence after sentence. It's an art. But what's cool is you can also, once you put it down there, you can move things and say, is this what I mean? And how do I mean this? And then once you do that, it's stamped in time. Right? The letter to my broken son is stamped in time. The prophet's words are stamped in time.
Yes.
It's such a cool thought. If there's anything about writing, is that it just concretes things. It concretes a thought that's been distilled down into words and then into writing and then potentially shifted around to say what you mean. And then it's concrete. I mean, they actually used to inscribe them into really things that were unerasable, right? And then even the typewriter, right? And we've moved on to now
something like the golden plates.
Well,
but it's just cool. It's so cool to think it just inscribes it in time. This is a real piece of what I was experiencing, and I tried to express
not only
that.
adds context to the author, the subject, but also everything around it.
Yeah.
And it touches people differently. We may all read the same set of scriptures, but what we feel, what we learn from the scriptures is dictated by how we're connected to the Spirit at that moment. So what a great conversation. We got to do it again.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we've scratched the surface of some of the things that we wanted to talk about.
Can I share one last thought?
Yeah, go for it.
So I read President Oaks' biography, his new one. I think it's In the Hands of the Lord, if I recall. But anyway, is it that? Okay. And
we have a fact checker
here.
Yeah,
he talked about when his wife passed. So he's now remarried to not Wendy, Kirsten. That's right. But his prior wife, when she passed, he had a very hard time with that. Obviously, it's actually one of my deepest fears is my wife passing away. I think about it, she scares me to death. I'm serious, and it keeps me up at night. But he said that the one thing, I remember this from this book, that helped him move on was she had kept such a great record of her life. And he distilled that and wrote a beautiful biography that he then published and created and gave it to his family. So not only was it her experiences that he could draw upon, but then he did it and then he gave it to his family. And for some reason that touched me. And I was just like, there's so much healing and closeness that you can feel in this process. But if he had no material to go off of, there's just so much benefit to just writing things down, your own experience. There's nobody else who can do it.
Exactly.
It's so cool.
That's why I love it so much. Not only because of the context, but because it helps me with my grammar as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Josh. Chase, it's been a great conversation. Any final thoughts before we end things?
All good from here.
All right. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
I think we need to. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in for this episode. Josh, do you want to give us details to your own YouTube channel?
I mean, not really.
Okay.
It's so hard to find. It's so small. I have 2 videos.
Okay.
So
we got to work on
about
that.
it.
Yeah, we got to work on that. Okay. Thank you for being here today. Please, if you're listening in and you like the content, let us know. If there's something that you'd like us to talk about, let us know as well. So please comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And we look forward to the next episode. Take care, and remember that all things are possible through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. See ya.